Yo, what's up everybody, it's Victon here with another League Starter build guide for 3.14 Ultimatum League. For this video, I'm actually going to give you guys two different path of buildings. One is going to be for the Necromancer version, and the other one is going to be for the Guardian version. I did do the Guardian version last league, actually as my League Starter, and had a whole bunch of success with it. I learned a bunch as well, and I have included kind of the updates and the upgrades that I made to that build while playing it last league into these two guides. So I do think these will be kind of the upgraded, newer, and improved versions of the build. And they're going to be very solid League starters for this league for sure. So what I'm going to do here is go through the trees for both builds, the skills of course, and the items. And then we're going to talk about the pros and cons between the two different builds, and also kind of what these builds will excel at while playing in Ultimatum League. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the Necromancer here. And we're going to go over the differences and kind of why you would want to choose a Necromancer over a Guardian. Guardian is definitely the one that probably most people are used to. So why would you play a Necromancer over the Guardian? Well, in my opinion, it's actually going to come down to what you want to do in the late game. You would play maybe this as a League starter because it's a fantastic, super cheap League starter that's going to actually get you about the same DPS as the Guardian. For both builds, you're coming at around 6 million DPS, which is very solid for a League starter. And you legitimately put, under 100 chaos into this build, and you can definitely do this solo self-found. No problem at all. So very minimal investment in gear, and it's going to get you a whole bunch of DPS and very good defenses as well. So a very good League starter compared to, say, a Carrion Golem build, which, also has a whole bunch of damage, but you will be spending a little bit more currency with that build, versus this one, you're basically spending no currency at all. So you could start with this Necromancer version of this build, get mostly the same stuff that you're getting with the Guardian, but then later on, you could switch to a different build if you wanted, like a Spectre build or a Carrion Golem build later down the road, whereas obviously if you played a Guardian, you'd have to fully re-roll the character. So that's just something to keep in mind. So let's go ahead and go over the tree here, because there's a couple differences compared to the Guardian build that you might be not used to. With the Guardian build, we do get a node here called Bastion of Hope, which is going to give us a whole bunch of block chance. It's an awesome node, but we obviously don't get that with the Necromancer. So instead, we're actually going to be picking up some block nodes ourselves just here on the tree. So we're getting this wheel here, we're getting a little bit of spell block up here, and we're of course getting glancing blows, and this is going to bring us up to 75% block chance. And the reason we're really doing that is because we're going to get a shield that also has recover percent of life when you block. So you're going to be blocking all the time, and then you're going to be recovering life all the time. So a pretty nice little combo there. And that's really the only difference here between the two builds themselves. I pretty much think that's really it. So let's go ahead and talk about the Ascendancy itself. Perfect. So we're going to start by grabbing the first node here, Mindless Aggression, which, like I always say, is really not that much going on with this. It's just a little bit of DPS. It's more of a traveling node. So the second point you're going to get, though, however, is Unnatural Strength. And this is a fantastic node. It's giving you a whole bunch of damage, which is really good for leveling up. You're going to see a pretty big power spike when you get this. The next one that we're actually going to be grabbing is Commander of Darkness. Now, again, I always say this is such a good node, really, for League starters, because it's going to give you and your minions 30% increased elemental resistances. That helps you so much in a League start situation, and it helps you gearing out, because you're not going to have to spend extra currency on getting extra elemental resistances on your gear. You're just getting a flat 30%, which is fantastic, and that's also really good for your minions. They're going to be able to survive a lot longer, because it's going to give them a whole bunch of elemental resistances when they're nearby you. So really solid. And then for our last points, when you do your Uber Lab, we're going to be picking up Mistress of Sacrifice. Now this is a pretty solid node. This is giving you your offerings also affect you. So when you do your flesh offering, it's going to give you a ton of attack speed, which makes playing the build pretty smooth. And that's kind of one of the only downsides to Guardians. When you're playing Dominating Blow, is just getting out your minions, and I guess just Dominating Blow in general, right? It's getting out your minions, and once you have your minions out, they are just wrecking everything around you. But getting out your minions can be a bit of a struggle sometimes, so getting as much attack speed as possible is very solid. So we're going to be picking this up so your offerings can affect you, and also it's a whole bunch of increased skill effect duration, 40%. So your minions are going to be lasting a long time, which is really nice. So in those situations like boss fights, They're going to be up much longer than they would on a Guardian, which is great. That's just more damage being put out, whereas you're not having to summon them more often. It's just much better from a quality of life standpoint. And that's the Necromancer version. That is allowing us to get a little bit more damage. So pretty solid. Like I said, coming out at about 6 million for spending basically no currency at all is very solid. Let's go on over to the skills. This is also going to be basically the same as the Guardian, but we'll go over both here. So for Dominating Blow, we do want to be doing Dominating Blow, Brutality, Multi-Strike, and Melee Splash as your 4-link. Now that's incredibly important, guys. You want to be using Melee Splash immediately. Right when you do Dominating Blow, you want Melee, so probably your 3-link should be this: Dominating Blow, Melee Splash, and Melee Physical Damage. That's your 3-link. For your 4-link, you can add in minion damage, and then later on you would switch that out for Brutality once you get to Act 6 and Lily, when you can pick up Brutality. That would be your 4-link at that point. And then your 5th link, you're going to go ahead and add in the all other one, so Melee Fizz at that point. And then for your 6th link, that's when you add in Impale. But it's very, very important that you guys do Melee Splash. This is literally game-changing for this build. It's super pain in the butt to spawn Dominating Blows unless you have Melee Splash. Once you have that, you are cruising while mapping, and it's really, really nice. It's also a kind of a nice tip for you guys. I have Shift as my kind of whole like stand in place and attack for mine, and I think that's the default, so it might be the same for you guys. But standing in place and hitting with Melee Splash, like you don't actually have to walk up and attack the monsters. You can just kind of stand in place and attack, and if you have Melee Splash, it's going to hit all the monsters around you, and there you go, it's going to summon all of the minions. So super, super nice quality of life. Do not play Dominating Blow without Melee Splash, and even on bosses, I actually use Melee Splash on bosses as well. So keep that in mind. So that is your 6th link for Dominating Blow. For our auras, we're going to be going with Dread Banner, Generosity, Pride, and Flesh and Stone. Now do note that Flesh and Stone is getting a Aura Reservation nerf this league, so it's actually going to be the same cost as Skitterbots. It's going to be 35%. So you're going to see over here, it's going to be at 19%. That's not really the case. Let's go ahead and check this just so you guys can see what the actual reserve mana. It's actually 10% at 107 mana. So I just put that in there so you guys could see the mana reservation. I'll fix that when POB does get updated. So, but Flesh and Stone, Pride, Generosity, Dread Banner. For our Raise Spectres, we have changed this up a little bit. We are now going Raise Spectre, Minion Life, Blood Magic, and Meat Shield. We are just, and first off, by the way, Blood Magic is now Life Tap, just so you guys know. Just POB is not updated, so Blood Magic is Life Tap, and we're of course putting that in our helmet with +2 or 3 socketed minion gems and as much life, minion life as possible on there as well. The +2 to minion gems is more important than the life, but if you can get both, it's fantastic. And at that point, you would drop the minion life, right, and you would put in an elemental army. It types here, elemental army. So at that point, once you have that nice helmet, this was what it would look like. But until you have that helmet with +2 socketed gems and also the minion life, you do want to drop elemental army and put in the minion life. So, and we just want our specters to not die. We want them to not die. You're actually gonna have a better time with your other minions, like your specters, your carrying golem, not dying, and your raised zombies not dying with the Necromancer version, because they're getting that +2 global minion minion skill gems, which is going to give them more life, flat life. So it's actually definitely going to help them survive in this build a lot better than it will in the Guardian. So that's another thing to note. You won't have to be resummoning your stuff as much as you would with the Guardian. So that is the new helmet with the Raise Spectre. We're trying to keep them alive. It was a big struggle when I was playing the Guardian. Those dudes were just dying all the time. I eventually just got rid of every other minion in the build, like no Raise Spectres, no Animate Guardian. I didn't have zombies. It was just my dudes, and even then I was still wrecking stuff. But that's why we've made this change here, to keep them alive as much as possible. So the next one we're going to have our Summon Carrion Golem with Raised Zombies, Feeding Frenzy, and Maim. These guys are gonna die occasionally. The Carrion Golem probably won't die that much, but the Raised Zombies will occasionally die. It's definitely gonna be much better on the Necromancer version than the Guardian version, but keep them up as much as possible, and it shouldn't be too bad. And they also do a decent bit of damage. Let's see here, the 5.9, that's nothing crazy, but they do about 400,000 damage, so a little bit extra damage. Why not? Moving on to our next one here. Now, I have this, we'll talk about Whirling Blades and Flame Dash in a second, but Convocation is, of course, something that you're always going to be using. I actually have that on my spacebar, and I literally just have it clicked all the time, so my dudes are teleporting to me all the time. This is kind of maybe a quality of life tip for you guys that you might like or might not. And then Desecrate, we have that at a level 1. Just for the mana cost. We don't want it to cost that much mana, and it literally does nothing for us to level it up, so make sure you keep that at level 1. Now, Flame Dash and Whirling Blades, if you are using a claw, then you can use Whirling Blades. So we'll talk about it in the item section, but if you're using the in-game weapon, which is the Scourge, definitely use Whirling Blades. It's super, super smooth to be Whirling Blades around the map. It's very fast and it's super fun. But if you don't have that, let's say if you have, if you're leveling up and you have the Bright Beak, which is the best leveling up weapon for this build, you would go with a Flame Dash because you can't do Whirling Blades. So just keep that in mind. For your second weapon, we do have Cast when damage taken, Immortal Call. And then we have Assassin's Mark for boss damage. It's so much extra damage. Look at this. It's over 1,000,000 damage for Assassin's Mark. Assassin's Mark is crazy. I can't believe this hasn't been nerfed yet. Super, super good damage, but we're really only using that for bosses. And then this is Bone Offering. We don't have that in here. Let's actually get rid of that. Let's go over to Flesh Offering. So you can do one of two things here. You can choose to do Flesh Offering or Bone Offering, by the way. It's up to you. It's up to you. If you want more survivability, definitely go with the Bone Offering. That's how you get that 75-75. So much more tanky to go with Bone Offering, obviously, and your minions are definitely not going to die if you have Bone Offering as well, because they're getting a ton of block chance as well. So they're never going to die if you have Bone Offering. And then obviously Flesh Offering is just going to give you more damage. So let's see what it does. It brings you up front. It gives you about 700,000 damage, which I really don't think is too big of a deal. 6 million is already pretty solid, so that's why I kind of went with Bone Offering, just for the extra defenses. But it's up to you guys. Defenses or damage. I chose defenses. Perfect, so that's the skills. Let's go ahead and go over to the items here. The in-game item is the Scourge Claw, which is fantastic. It does drop from Chimera, which is an in-game boss though, so that's not going to be available for a while. Until then, you can go something like, let's see, I have it over here. You can do something like this where you have some attack speed and you also have some minion damage on there. Like this one has the temple mod. The minions do have 5% chance to deal double damage, some minion damage, and then attack speed. Attack speed is huge, guys. You need as much attack speed on your weapon as possible because you need to spawn your minions as fast as possible. So slow attacking weapons is out of the question. Do not get slow attacking weapons. And as I mentioned, as you're leveling up, Bright Beak is absolutely huge. It's so good to level up. You can get this at what, level 20? Once you get this at level 20, guys, and then you start doing Dominating Blow at 28, you are feeling like a god. It's so crazy. And this thing is like 1 to 2 chaos. So really, really good leveling up weapon. I actually used this weapon all the way until I used this, which was like, I think I got this one around 70 plus. So I used the Bright Beak for a long time. And then I picked up the Scourge after that, once it got a little bit cheaper. It's going to start out a little bit expensive. It's going to start around, 40, 50 chaos, but it's going to go down very fast, and it ends up around, like 2 chaos after a week or so. So keep that in mind. I already talked about the shield. You just want a shield with a whole bunch of life, and then most importantly, they recover % life when you block, and the highest you can go is 5%. That's what's giving us so much additional survivability because we have such high block chance. We're recovering a lot of life on block all the time. For that helmet, as I already mentioned, you want an Elder-based helmet, and you can spam Bound Fossils on them yourself. And we're going to go for level the socket of minion gems, at least 2, and you can go up to level 3. And then also level a minion life on there as well. Try and get some life, try and get some resistance on there as well as possible, but the most important things is the socket of minion gems and the minion life. For body armor, super cheap, absolutely whatever 6 link. Just try and get any 6 link. Maybe if it has some armor and injury shield, that would be the best, but it really doesn't matter. Just get something with life. You can literally do Essences of Greed on this to get some high life and maybe a resistance or 2. Or you can buy one that's already corrupted on the trade website, and just make sure you get one with red, 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 green, blue, blue, and you should be good to go. Let's just make sure real quick that was the right colors. Yeah, red, 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 green. Actually, we don't have that, so it's red, 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 green. Or you could do the minion damage instead of melee fizz. You can do a couple different things on the colors, but this is the setup that I would have. So red, 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 green would be my setup. Perfect. So the gloves here, these are the starter gloves that you're going to get. It's basically just life and resistances. Now, a couple things to note here is that you can eventually get I think it's a hunter mod on here that is +1 to additional strikes for strike skills, and Dominating Blow is a strike skill. So what that means is that when you attack one monster, it's kind of like melee splash, but it's a buffed melee splash, and it just helps you spawn your sentinels even faster. So a pair of I'm sorry, not a pair of boots, I'm sorry, the gloves. The gloves is what you're going to have that on, not the boots. I apologize, I thought we were at the gloves. The gloves is going to be the +1 to additional strike for strike skills, and that is what is going to help you spawning your sentinels even faster. And that's where you can like stand in place with shift click and attack just near the boss. Like you don't even have to be attacking the boss itself, and you spawn your dudes, and it's pretty huge quality of life boost on your gloves. But you don't have to get that up front, and they're not going to come out for a while. Like I said, it's a hunter mod, so keep that in mind. So your boots, this is where it's just the life resistances and move speed. Super easy on that one. Same thing with the gloves. I think I skipped over that. It's just life resistances. I threw on some crafted dexterity because you do need a little bit of dexterity for this to make sure you can have all your stuff. So make sure you get some dexterity on a couple of your items here. So for your amulet, same thing here. Life resistances. Try and get some dexterity. We are going to anoint Ravenous Horde, so not a very expensive anoint, and a good bit of damage, so not too bad. And then for our rings, same thing, life resistances, and we do try to get it in an unset ring though, so we can have some extra skills. So keep that in mind. So far, super cheap, guys. Super cheap. You can like solo self-found everything here, and then if you wait a couple days to get the Scourge, that's again like 5 chaos. So we're probably right now at like 10 to 20 chaos of investment. Pretty crazy. And the belt is Darkness Enthroned, which is about a 2 chaos belt. The reason we're doing this is because of that 75% increased effect of Socketed Jewels, and we have 2 Abyssal Jewels that we can throw in there. And we're going to throw in jewels like this. They have life and minion steal, up to 20% increased damage if used a minion skill recently, and Dominating Blow is a minion skill, so you're going to be using it all the time, so this is going to be active all the time, so a whole bunch of extra damage and life. And if you're crazy, you could even try and get on minion steal increased physical damage with attacks. That is also very good. That should be your 3rd stat that you try and get on there, but that's a little bit more expensive, so just keep that in mind as something to work towards. For our flasks, these are actually quite important, so we're going to go over these. The Rumi's Concoction, that is again what is going to help you get that 75/75 block chance. It helps you get that last little bit of spell block chance. It also gives you some armor, so very good item here. The Withering Jar is incredibly important. This is what helps you spawn your sentinels on bosses. Very important. Super cheap item. Basically, you pop this flask right before the boss starts fighting you, and it pops out little wormies, and then you do stand in place, so you do shift and then right click to attack, and if you do that with melee splash, it's going to attack those little worms and kill them, and then spawn your sentinels. So it actually works quite well. I think you're going to start off all boss fights with at least 4 sentinels because of this Withering Jar. So it helps you kind of get going in those boss fights. You absolutely need this in order to do some boss fights like Cyrus or even Maven, stuff like that where there's not a lot of ads. You need this jar. But a good thing is it's super cheap. We also have a Basalt Flask here just for some extra defenses. I did go in with warding so we can be immune to curse. And then this is pretty important as well, Enduring Eternal Mana Flask of Staunching. So it is a little mana intensive for Dominating Blow, so we do this so we can basically not have any mana problems, and I throw on Staunching there so we can be bleed immune all the time. Now Forbidden Taste is going to be my my flask for my life. I don't have it active here, but basically what this is going to do, since we have so much chaos resistance, there's no downside to using this flask. It's basically an instant full heal flask. You want to make sure you get the ones that say recover 100% of your maximum life on use, or you can get the ones that are like, 98%, 99%, they're much cheaper. But even that, it's like 10 chaos for this flask, not too bad at all. But it's a full heal with no downside. Very good life flask. For our jewels, basically the only thing that's kind of different here is the Conqueror's Efficiency, which you actually pick up leveling. So make sure when you get this is a quest reward, select this, and this is going to help you with your mana reservation just a little bit. It's not required. You could even throw in a one of these other jewels in here, like this, and it's going to up the DPS a couple hundred, but it makes the mana issue a little bit more. It's kind of up to you guys. You can either put in a Ghastly Eye Jewel here for damage, or you can put in the Conqueror's Efficiency, whichever one you kind of feel is good, but it's free. You get that leveling up, so might as well pick it up. Perfect. So let's go back to the tree here and look at the larges and medium cluster jewels we have here. So we're going to have 2 large cluster jewels, and they're both going to be the exact same. And basically all we want here is Rotten Claws. Obviously, if you get some other stuff on here, that's great. Like Vicious Bites would be very, very good. But really just Rotten Claws. And you want 2 of those, and that's going to bring you up to, let's see here, 95% impale chance for your dudes. So very, very good, because this is an impale build. So that is our large cluster jewels, and you want to get an 8 socket one as well, by the way. And then for your medium cluster jewels, we're gonna have 2 different ones. We're gonna have this one right here, which is going to be just a renewal, and then an extra socket jewel. Renewal got a little bit of a nerf this league. It's already updated here on the POB, so that's nice. It's 5% chance to deal double damage and a little bit of life regen as well. Just basically some damage. And then over here, you do want to get one with renewal and Blessed Rebirth. Again, Blessed Rebirth is almost mandatory for doing those bosses like Cyrus and Maven. Minions created recently, 4 seconds as recently, cannot be damaged. Incredibly important. Otherwise, when you spawn your minions, stuff like the Cyrus beams and all that crazy damage from that stuff is just going to instantly kill them, and it's absolutely terrible. So if you get Blessed Rebirth, it almost solves that problem. So not too bad. Definitely mandatory in my opinion. And then the other ones here, I have these in here, but I'm not selected just because it's a, it's a leveling build. We're only putting it 118 points, which is a level 95 character. Obviously, if you were to keep leveling up, you would do that. You would do this, and then you'd mess around here, but you'd do some stuff like that, and it ups the damage a little bit. But we don't need that right now. We're just gonna stick with this. Perfect. I think that's pretty much it for this tree. Let's go ahead and pull over the Guardian here. We basically went over everything, so we're not going to go over everything again, but I will kind of discuss the Guardian in general. Like I said, the build itself, like all the street, you can see that it's pretty much all basically the same. It just doesn't have the defense, or I'm sorry, the block nodes right here. Doesn't have the block nodes up here. Really not a big deal. Everything else is basically the same. We just got a little bit more life. As you can tell, this version definitely has more life. It's got 6,100 life compared to the other one, which had about, I think it was like 5,600 life. This one also only has very high regular block chance for attack damage. It does not have good block chance for spell. So that's another thing to kind of note, but it makes up for that in the fact that it has a lot more life. So not too bad here. Now, let's go over the Guardian passives for the Ascendancy choice. The first one that you're going to be picking up is Radiant Crusade. So plus 20 to all elemental resistances. Again, that's super great for league starters because it's going to help you with gearing out. And this is being your first node that you're picking up is very, very good. So you're going to get this very early on, and it's really going to help you out with the elemental resistances. And that's only for you. It's not for your minions like it is a Necromancer, but it's totally fine. And then while there's at least 5 nearby allies, you and your allies have Onslaught. While there is at least 1 nearby ally, you and your allies deal 10% more damage. So super good damage node. Absolutely crazy good damage node as well. Onslaught is 20% increase attack, cast, and move speed. So you're going to be really fast with this build. And also attack pretty fast. It's actually about the exact same attack. Let's check here. So this attack rate, let's see where we're at. 4.82 compared to move that over here. Attack rate is 4.62, so basically the same. The Guardian has a little bit more attack speed. And this node, by the way, I didn't mention this. Spiritual Command gives you so much attack speed. Let's unclick this here. 3.31 all the way up to 4.82. That's absolutely crazy. So this is a super important node for being able to attack fast and spawn those sentinels as fast as possible. So keep that in mind when leveling up. Very important. Perfect. So let's go ahead and go back now to the Guardian. So Radiant Crusade was that first node, very good for defenses and damage. And then Unwavering Crusade after that is just more attack. It's basically like another Onslaught. Nearby allies have 20% increased attack, cast, and move speed, and AoE, which doesn't do anything for you. But this is very solid. So nearby allies intimidate enemies on hit, and basically what intimidate means is they take 10% more attack damage. So just a whole lot of damage with this one. Not for you, but for your dominating blow sentinels. Perfect. So after that, your third point is actually, you know what, let's do this as your third point. Let's do Harmony of Purpose. And this is kind of a change from the last league. We actually did go with the Time of Need in the last league for Guardian. We're not going to do that anymore because the Curse Reduct doesn't do anything for you because we have the warding on your flask. Every 4 seconds regenerate 30% life over 1 second is pretty solid. What I think is more important is this. And now, Harmony of Purpose does not affect your minions. Just keep that in mind. But nearby enemies cannot gain power for 0 endurance charges. That's kind of okay. Sure, that's great. And see, here's the issue. It says nearby party members. So that's now it's not going to your minions. Your minions are not party members, they're allies. But here's the important part. 20% chance to gain a power, frenzy, or endurance charge on hit. So you're basically going to be capped on power, frenzy, and endurance charges all the time. Power doesn't matter for you, but frenzy increases your attack speed. So again, we want to increase our attack speed as much as possible. So getting that frenzy and endurance as well is going to give us defenses. So very, very solid there. We just want to have those maxed all the time for extra attack speed and defenses. So I do think this is probably better than Time of Need. So I went with that. And I think that's going to be better as you're leveling up than Bastion of Hope. So let's go ahead and pick that up as your 3rd skill, Harmony of Purpose. And then once you get your Uber Lab, at that point, we're going to do Bastion of Hope. Now, again, I've kind of mentioned this already. It's a fantastic block damage. So 50% chance to block attack damage for 2 seconds every 5 seconds. You can block an attack to last 10 seconds, which is going to be all the time. And nearby allies cannot be stunned. You and nearby allies cannot be stunned. So that's super solid as well. So basically you're stun immune. If you've attacked recently, you and nearby allies have a 10% chance to block attack and spell damage. Again, pretty solid. This is a little bit different than the Necro. Just pointing us out one more time that we don't have the max spell block, but we do have the actual maximum block chance. And it's good to note because we're not getting glancing blows, which makes you take 65% of the blocked hits. We just have a flat out 75% block chance. So that is just pure 75% block chance where you're not taking extra damage. So actually super, super good, even though that we're not getting that spell block. And on top of that, anytime we do block, we are getting some life back from our shield. And while we're over here, I'll just mention that all of the gear is exactly the same setup that you would do with this build versus the Necromancer. So you can just go back and listen to that if you're interested in that. Same thing with the skills. It's literally the same stuff. The only differences was a little bit of the tree and of course the Ascendancy choices itself. So that's all I got for the passive skill trees. Do remember, of course, that I will always have leveling paths for you guys to level up with this build. I do also have notes in here, so you guys can check this on how to level up the build with gems and all that good stuff. That will be in both of those, so check that out as well. And that's really all I got for this one. I just kind of want to, I've been having a lot of people ask about the Dominating Blow. I think both of these are going to be fantastic. I think the Necromancer is going to be a good addition to this build if you're looking to switch later on to, say, a Summoner, or to a Spectre build, for example. I think a lot of people want to do Spectre builds, but you can't really do them as League starters. So you would do, for example, like a Dominating Blow build for super cheap all the way to in-game, get some currency, and then switch over to a Spectre build. Or you could do this Guardian build and kind of just ride it out because you're a super badass all the way, because it's pretty solid. So those are the two options that I have for you guys. I hope that you guys learn something from this, that you guys enjoy the builds if you do play it. And if y'all do, definitely hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. And also check me out on Twitch. I will be streaming the league start here pretty soon, so check that out. If you're interested in seeing me play this league, you can always come in there and ask me as many questions as you guys want. I always like helping you guys out with your builds. And also kind of chatting about builds. If you do want to join my Patreon, you get access to my sub-only Discord, which I do build reviews all the time. I have people message me in there, and every single person messages me. I always spend some time and do build reviews for you guys. So if you're interested in that, definitely check that out. The last thing I guess to mention is that if you guys are interested in supporting the channel, one new way to support the channel is the Nexus store that GGG just released. It's actually, if you want to purchase any cosmetic sets that you would have just already purchased anyway, you can actually go to my Nexus store, purchase them on that, and sometimes you can actually get discounts on it. And it's going to give me a small amount of the proceeds, and all of those proceeds are going straight back into the stream to improve the quality of the stream and to grow our community. So that's all I got for this one, guys. If you've made it this far in the video, like I always say, you rock. I appreciate you guys, and I will catch you guys in the next one.